It's funny, most of us wake up in the morning already tired, not because we didn't sleep, but because our minds never stopped running all night. We open our eyes and instead of saying, "Thank you," we say, "Oh no, not again." The day hasn't even started, and already we're in a race that no one even told us to run. We live in a world where pressure has become normal and peace feels like luxury. People say, "I'm under pressure." But have you noticed? Pressure doesn't come from the world. It comes from the way we process the word. Two people can go through the same challenge. One breaks, the other blossoms. Why? Because one is reacting from pressure and the other is responding from peace. My friends, today I want to share with you something we've all forgotten. That peace is not something we find after we finish everything. It's something we must carry as we do everything. Because life is not meant to be lived constantly wondering, worrying, and waiting. It's meant to be flowing, feeling, and flourishing. So today's reflection is called Peace Over Pressure, the New Way to Live. If we can master this one art, choosing peace over pressure will not only change how we live our days, will change how our days live through us. The illusion of control is perhaps one of the most beautiful traps the human mind walks into every single day. We love to believe that if we plan perfectly, if we calculate carefully, if we predict accurately, then everything will go exactly as we want. But life, my friends, has its own rhythm. It dances to a tune far beyond our comprehension. We can prepare, but we cannot predict. We can guide, but we cannot guarantee. And the moment we accept this truth, a quiet peace begins to settle in the heart. A peace that is not born out of perfection, but out of surrender. Think about it. How many times have you worried over something that never actually happened? How many sleepless nights have we spent trying to control outcomes that were never in our hands to begin with? We spend so much energy trying to push the river in a direction it's already flowing. Life doesn't need our control. It needs our cooperation. The wind doesn't ask the bird where to blow, yet the bird learns how to glide with it. That is the secret of peace. Learning to glide with the flow rather than constantly fighting against it. Imagine a morning where you have planned your day perfectly. You've made a to-do list, set your goals, and promised yourself that today will be productive. But just as you step out, it begins to rain heavily. The traffic slows down, your meetings get delayed, and suddenly everything feels like it's falling apart. Now, you have two choices. Either you fight the rain mentally, complaining, cursing, and exhausting yourself emotionally, or you accept that the rain has come and you adjust your rhythm. Maybe you listen to some music in the car, maybe you take a deep breath and smile at how life always finds ways to remind you who's in charge. The rain doesn't change, but your attitude towards it decides whether you suffer or stay serene. That's the illusion of control. Believing that peace comes only when everything goes our way. But peace doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Peace begins when you accept imperfect conditions with grace. Control wants certainty, peace embraces the unknown. Control demands results, peace enjoys the process. The more we try to dominate life, the more life humbles us. And the more we learn to dance with its rhythm, the lighter we begin to feel. One of the most inspiring examples of this comes from a simple gardener. A gardener can plant seeds, water them, give them sunlight, but cannot make them grow faster than nature's pace. He can't control the weather, but he can nurture with patience. That's how peace grows, through patience, not pressure. We are all gardeners of our own destiny. But the growth of life happens on its divine schedule, not our deadlines. And when we try to pull the petals of a flower to make it bloom faster, we destroy it. How often do we do this in our relationships, careers, or even our personal growth? We want immediate change. We want instant results. We want others to behave according to our expectations. But the truth is, everyone blooms at their own time. Some people are in the spring of their life, some are in autumn, some are still seeds waiting for their moment of sunlight. Trying to control them is like arguing with the seasons. It's pointless. Instead, if we learn to respect their timing, our hearts stay at peace. Even in our own journey, life constantly teaches us that we are not the ultimate controller. Remember those moments when things didn't go your way, and yet later you realize they went the best possible way. Maybe you didn't get that job you were desperate for, but you later found one that matched your soul perfectly. Maybe a relationship ended painfully, but it freed you to discover yourself deeply. Sometimes what feels like rejection is actually divine protection. The universe rearranges things not to punish us, but to prepare us. But in the moment when we are caught in the illusion of control, we fail to see that. When we let go of control, we don't lose power. We actually gain it because we stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable and start investing it in our attitude, our responses, and our peace. You cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Peace is not found in the calm of the ocean, it is found in the skill of the sailor. And that skill comes when you stop arguing with life and start aligning with it. In our daily life, this could be as simple as letting go of how someone reacts to you. You might speak kindly to someone, and they might still be rude. You can't control their behavior, but you can control whether you let that ruin your day. You can't control whether traffic jams your route, but you can control whether you jam your thoughts with anger. You can't control how fast the world changes, but you can control how gracefully you adapt. That is real power. The power that comes from peace, not pressure. When we release the illusion of control, we begin to trust something higher. Call it God, life, the universe, or the divine order. That higher intelligence has been managing the galaxies, the stars, and the seasons for billions of years. Surely it can manage your life better than your anxious thoughts can. When you trust that, your mind relaxes. You begin to live lighter. You begin to smile more often because you realize you don't need to carry the weight of everything. You are not the controller, you are a participant in a beautiful divine plan. So the next time things don't go your way, instead of asking, why me? Maybe ask, what is this teaching me? Because sometimes losing control is how we find peace. Sometimes when life removes our plans, it's actually clearing space for something greater. And when we learn to trust that, to breathe through uncertainty, and to let go with faith, we don't just live peacefully. We live powerfully. Because peace, not control, is the real strength that carries us through every storm. The practice of silence is one of the most underrated, yet most powerful disciplines of life. In a world that celebrates noise, the noise of opinions, notifications, and never-ending conversations, silence has become a forgotten art. Yet silence is not emptiness, it is energy. It's the space where wisdom whispers. The loudest voices often drown out truth, but silence reveals it. When we learn to pause before reacting, when we learn to listen more than we speak, we begin to experience something miraculous. Peace begins to grow inside us. Every day, life gives us countless moments that invite us to practice silence. But most of the time, we miss them because we are too eager to respond, defend, or prove. Think about a moment when someone said something that hurt you deeply. Instantly, the mind rushes to respond, to argue, to justify, to fight back. But what if, just for a moment, you stayed silent? What if, instead of reacting to their words, you listened to your own heart first? In that small pause, something powerful happens. The emotion starts to settle, the storm starts to calm, and clarity quietly enters. That silence is not weakness, it is strength under control. It's the strength to choose peace over impulse. In silence, we realize that not every comment needs an answer, not every situation needs an opinion, and not every storm needs to be fought. Sometimes, silence solves what noise complicates. A man once said, "The tree doesn't shout for its fruits to be noticed. The mango tree simply grows in silence, and people find it because of the sweetness it carries, not the sound it makes." In the same way, the more silent and grounded we become, the more peaceful our presence becomes, and people naturally feel that energy without us having to say a single word. Silence is also a mirror. When we stop talking, we start hearing the voice inside us, the one we often ignore amidst all the external distractions. Many people say they meditate but cannot sit quietly because the noise inside feels louder than the world outside. That's not a failure, that's a realization. When you close your eyes and the noise of unfinished thoughts, old wounds, and endless worries starts playing, that is your mind revealing what needs healing. If you stay long enough in that silence, if you breathe through that discomfort, slowly the inner noise begins to fade, and the peace you've been searching for begins to rise from within. Let's take an example from daily life. Suppose you're at work and a colleague criticizes your effort in front of everyone. The instant reaction might be to respond defensively, to explain, to argue, or to prove your worth. But if you pause, even for 5 seconds, and choose silence, you shift the energy. Instead of reacting from hurt, you respond later with wisdom. Maybe you realize that their words came from their own insecurity. Maybe you see that arguing would have lowered your dignity. Silence allows you to see the truth beneath the surface. You win not by shouting louder, but by staying centered when others lose balance. That is the quiet power of silence. Silence also deepens relationships. Sometimes, when someone we love is upset, we rush to give advice, to fix them, to tell them what to do. But more often than not, they don't need our words, they need our presence. Just sitting with them, holding their hand, and saying nothing at all can speak volumes. The silence of empathy is far more healing than the noise of logic. In silence, hearts connect without explanations. The presence of peace becomes the message itself. Even nature teaches us this. The sun rises silently. The moon glows without a sound. The flowers bloom quietly. The rivers flow without noise unless they hit rocks. Everything truly powerful in nature works in silence. Why then do we believe that shouting, proving, or explaining will make our lives better? The greatest transformations happen in quiet moments. When you sit with yourself and reflect, when you forgive silently, when you choose not to react, when you walk away peacefully, instead of fighting needlessly. Those are the moments when your inner strength matures. One of the wisest habits we can develop is to pause before we speak, because once words are spoken, they can't be taken back. Many regrets in life don't come from what we didn't say, but from what we said too quickly. Silence gives us that sacred second of awareness where we can ask ourselves, is this word kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? If the answer is no, silence says it better. When you start practicing silence consciously, you'll notice your inner world shifting. The mind becomes less reactive. The heart becomes more peaceful. The soul begins to guide you. You start hearing things you missed before, not the noise of the world, but the gentle whisper of wisdom, and that whisper will never lead you wrong. It will tell you when to speak, when to walk away, and when to simply smile. In your daily routine, try to create small moments of silence. Maybe during your morning walk, turn off your phone and just listen to the wind, the birds, your breath. When you eat in silence for a few minutes and taste your food fully. When you drive, instead of filling the car with noise, drive quietly and notice how peaceful it feels. These small practices awaken a deeper connection to life. Silence turns ordinary moments into meditations. Over time, silence becomes your natural response. When people argue, you smile. When situations fall apart, you stay calm. When confusion surrounds you, clarity arises from within. Because silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of peace. It's the inner stillness that reminds you that you don't need to fight every battle, you don't need to defend every opinion, and you don't need to control every outcome. All you need is to be still enough to hear the divine rhythm guiding you through everything. So practice silence, not as an escape, but as a return. A return to your own center, a return to your own peace. Because in the end, it's not the loudest voice that wins in life, it's the calmest mind that does. And the calmest mind is born in the sacred space of silence. Day by day progress, not perfection. This simple shift in mindset can change the entire experience of life. We live in a world obsessed with instant results. We want success quickly, healing instantly, peace immediately, and transformation overnight. But the truth is, nothing truly valuable in life happens instantly. The sunrise takes time to spread its light. A seed takes time to become a tree. And we too need time to grow into the best version of ourselves. Perfection is an illusion, but progress is a journey, one that fills life with meaning, patience, and inner joy. Think about it. How often do we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves? We say, I'll meditate every day for an hour, I'll never get angry again, or I'll always stay positive. And the first time we miss a day, lose our temper, or feel low, we immediately feel like we've failed. But that's not failure, that's being human. The problem is not that we stumble, it's that we expect to fly before we learn to walk. Real growth doesn't come from chasing perfection. It comes from showing up, little by little, every single day, no matter how small the step. Imagine a sculptor working on a stone. With each strike, nothing much seems to change. A little dust falls, a small piece chips away, but the stone still looks the same. Days go by, and people watching might wonder why he continues. But one day, after hundreds of tiny, patient strokes, the figure emerges, not because of one big effort, but because of countless small ones. That's how life works. Every day we show up, we strike a little bit of the stone within, our doubts, fears, and laziness. And slowly, a masterpiece begins to appear. We often admire successful people and think they became that way overnight. But behind every achievement is a story of small, consistent actions, early mornings, late nights, silent struggles, and steady commitment. The greatest musicians didn't start with perfect tunes. They started with noise and practiced until the noise became music. The strongest minds weren't born calm. They learned to stay steady by falling and rising again and again. Even peace is a practice. You don't wake up one day and become peaceful forever. You practice it every time life tests your patience. In our daily lives, this principle applies everywhere. Take the example of fitness. Many people join a gym, start enthusiastically, and then quit after a week because they don't see results. But the real transformation doesn't happen in a week. It happens in the days when you don't feel like going, but still go. It happens when you keep your promise to yourself, even when no one's watching. That quiet consistency is more powerful than a burst of perfection. The same applies to our spiritual growth. You don't need to meditate for hours. Even 5 minutes of sincere silence every day creates ripples of peace within you. Progress is not measured in intensity, it's measured in consistency. One of the biggest obstacles to progress is comparison. We often measure our journey against others who are ahead of us. We see someone else's success and feel like we're behind. But life is not a race, it's a rhythm. Everyone is on their own timing. A flower doesn't rush to bloom just because another one did. It blooms when it's ready, and that's what makes it beautiful. When we focus on our own small steps, we stop feeling pressure and start feeling purpose. The question is not, how far have I gone? But, have I moved forward today? Even 1 inch forward is still progress. Let's take an example many of us can relate to: learning patience. Maybe you've promised yourself to stay calm when your children, colleagues, or loved ones test your patience. But one day, you snap. You feel bad, thinking, I'll never change. But what if you noticed that earlier, you used to get angry every time? And now you manage to stay calm more often. That's progress. You may not be perfect, but you're growing. And that growth deserves to be celebrated. Because peace doesn't come from never being triggered. It comes from being triggered less and recovering faster.